Do you sometimes have kids read a word like sun and say s, n, and then say nut or super? If you encounter word reading errors like that, then you're in the right place to find out how to solve them. Today we're going to be talking about 4 classic word level errors that students make so frequently, and then more importantly, how to solve them. There's just 4 errors that are so common, and there's also very easy ways to get them over those hurdles. So stay tuned to find out what those errors are, how to solve them, and it'll be cool to watch a first grader as he works through Frog and Toad to see these errors in action. So thanks for tuning in. I'm Marnie Ginsberg of Reading Simplified, and it's our mission at Reading Simplified to help classroom teachers streamline reading instruction and accelerate student reading achievement. We also have homeschool parents, grandparents, mentors, tutors involved, because anyone who teaches beginning or struggling readers how to read will save time and get faster results with the techniques that we teach at Reading Simplified, just a handful of techniques. So if you have been waiting around for me, I apologize. I am super late. It's almost 20 minutes late. I had a trip to drop off a daughter at a volleyball practice, and what was a normal 50-minute drive round trip took me 2 hours and 15 minutes. So that was way unanticipated. So I'm sorry about that. But I'd love to know who is here, and if you have any classic word level problems that you've seen, or some questions about how to help kids when they read something kind of funny. Do you remember anything that your students have read or said that sticks out in your memory? Because those would be great to hear about in the comments so I can address your particular issues. Or maybe you just want to say hi. Let me know you're in the house and we'll get started. Awesome, Melody. We're glad you're here from Texas. Again, thanks for being so faithful. And I'm sorry I'm late. Okay, so are you guys ready to hear about the 4 types of student errors? Let's go through these, all right? This is the cheat sheet. And let me switch screen. There we go. All right. So there are 4 here on this sheet. Let's start with the first one. The first one is just guessing. So the student's reading along. Frog sat in bed, and the student says, Frog sat on a chair. Okay, so it's not even really, it makes sense, but it doesn't line up to the print. So that's one classic error. Hi, Lena, so glad you're here. Sorry about being late. So the student makes that error. There are a couple things that you can do. One of the easiest things is just to grab that pencil and tap the word again. And try not to say a lot. In fact, throughout these tips about how to give feedback, I'm going to try to remove as much of myself as the teacher as I can so that the student can do the work, do the thinking. The more I talk, the less the student can think about what word makes sense in the sentence, because there's 2 lines of language competing against each other. The student's brain trying to make sense of the word and my yapping. Okay? So if the student guesses, tap. That's the first thing to do. Just tap the thing that he missed and draw his attention back to it. Don't let him get away with it. Hi, LaRonda. Hi, Penny. We're glad you're here. Welcome. The other thing that might happen, maybe he didn't guess, but maybe he said the frog sat up in bed. Maybe he said frog sat up in the bath. So maybe he looked at the beginning part of it, but didn't really make a random guess, but, still misidentifying. Well, you'd tap your pencil. So if he said bath and it was bed, you'd tap your pencil on the so that he would draw his attention, his eyes, and his focus back to the error. So I'm going to show you video of these things in action. So first I'm going to go over the 4 types, then you'll see them in action, and we'll ask you which type each error is before we move on. So you could do that. The other thing you could do is cover up all but the first 2 sounds with a finger or a card. I like to use a little card, and you'll see it in the video, so that the student only sees part of the word and then they blend as you read, which is a typical thing that we emphasize a lot here at Reading Simplified. So that little card is one thing to do it. Welcome, Gabriella. So another thing that can be done when the student makes a guess, we're error number 1, is to say, well, that makes sense, but look at the word, don't guess. So that would be, again, fitting for the student reads the frog sat up in bed, and he misread it as frog sat in the chair. Wow, yeah, it could be that he's sitting in a chair, and that makes sense, and that's reasonable based on context. But if you look at the print, that's not coming up. So it's still good to encourage them for making sense, but then also to encourage them to be very accountable, to keep their eyes on the print. Okay, so that is error number 1. Maybe making a guess, maybe random, maybe based on context, maybe based on the first sound, or maybe they misidentified something. Maybe they said bed is bad. You would still draw their attention back to print. Okay, that's number 1. Let's get on to error number 2 that is so classic of our 4 classic reading word problems. The other one is blending difficulty. So this one is so classic, especially for the younger ones, but frankly, it's classic for anyone. That's why blend as you read is so important. Even the 15-year-old I worked with this summer didn't blend well when he tried to put multi-syllable words together. So irresponsible, you still have to blend the chunks. Irresponsible. There's blending involved with that. So whether you're blending the word son or blending the word irresponsible, blending is important. So thank you, Gabriella. So let's think about it in terms of 2 types. It's either going to be a 1 chunk word or 1 syllable word, 1 chunk of sounds or 1 syllable, or a 2 or 3 or 4 chunk word. So if the word is just 1 chunk, then you just cover up, part of the word. Let's see, like this. So they can't read the word difficulty. You'd cover up I'm doing 1 word, so I got to pick up 1 syllable. So let's say they're doing the word word. You would cover up everything but the part that they can't, the first 2 sounds, and you would get them to read the wor and word, and then you'd reveal the d, and then they would read word, and then you'd reveal the s, and they would read words. So that's the first type of blending difficulty. Use the card, get them to blend as they read, and that's it. But what if they have a multi-syllable word? So you do the same thing, except that you break it up into chunks. Okay, let's read the first chunk in this word. Or you could even break it up this way or this way. Let's try this. What do you hear at the beginning of that word? Everybody, let me hear you. Okay, the child says blend, and then you cover up the end, and then blend. Put them together, blending. So that's the blend as you read by chunk. We're going to see that example several times when our first grader today reads frog and toad. Okay, so we're on to errors number 2. How many of you have seen these types of errors? Hey, Carleen, have you seen these errors with your students? Do you have kindergartners? Do you have 2nd graders, 5th graders? Have these errors cropped up for you? And how would you deal with them? Is the way you deal with them somewhat similar? I'd love to hear from you guys. Okay, so we did 2. Let's move on to 3. Then the other thing that happens, but let me hear from you. The other thing that happens is there is often unknown phonics information. So they come to the word and they don't know that O-R is right? Because they've also learned it as or. So then you point your pencil again or underline just the target spelling and say, this is okay? So, or maybe as one of my suggestions there is just to tap it, because they might know it, but they need to think about it a little bit more. So you drawing your attention and their attention to the thing that's tricking them is the least amount of feedback that you can give. The other thing you could say would also be to tap it and then say, what else could this be? So that they have to think through what other possibilities there are for that sound and moving towards making a meaningful word. Have you seen that work for you? That is developing what I call the flex-it strategy, which is the second most important decoding strategy you need. First, you need the blend as you read decoding strategy. Put the sounds together as you go, reading them continuously, or as you go, blend, not b-o-n-d. So that's the first decoding strategy. The second one is the flex-it strategy. So if the child reads the word blend as bleend, right, where the E could be, the E letter could be the E sound in many words, you tap the E and say, what else could this be? And they have to drop the E, and there goes my pencil, and push in the E. Or they have to drop the E and push in the E. So that's flexing it. And that's why the switch it activity, which we teach here at Reading Simplified, is so important. Okay, Alita says, yes, she sees these problems daily, and you have them chunk and blend them as they read the words. Super. Okay, so if they have unknown phonics information, maybe you tap it. Let me get another pencil. You tap it, or you can say, what else could this be? Or perhaps you say, you tap it and you tell them what it is. This is O. Try again. Okay, so we have now seen 3 errors, and we're about to watch our video. You ready to watch our video soon? The last error is applying the flex-it strategy, what I was just telling you about, that if they've tried one sound and it doesn't work, they need to try another. They need to flex that sound. So again, you tap the sound that they're confused with. So in the word, if they read it as ward with the or sound, you would tap this and say, what else could it be? Or you could say, this is in this word. Or the last one there that's kind of different from the unknown phonics information, but you could use it in either category. You could say, well, is ward a word that fits here? What might make more sense? So we're always definitely encouraging context, but we don't want context to be their primary approach. It is a background thing that is a part of their brain that we're encouraging and we're always utilizing, but we're not using it as the primary driver of reading, because that's not what good readers do. Good readers rely on print, and so we want our kids' eyes on the print. Thanks, Brittany. Okay, are you guys ready to watch the video of the first grader? Let's see if my video will come up. This is a first grade boy. He's not struggling. He's doing fine. He's still learning how to read, but he makes some errors, and I'm going to show you each of these errors that we talked about in our list today. If you're just tuning in, we talked about 4 different types of errors, and we're going to see those errors in action, and then we're going to see how to give feedback. And I think if we have enough time, I make a mistake or 2. So that's good to know, because no teacher is perfect, even though this is one of the main things I do week in and week out for years, is give feedback to readers. I realized and I watched this, I was like, oh, that wasn't good. So that's just the way real teaching is, right? Now, a couple of caveats. Many of you are classroom teachers, so you don't have the privilege of sitting and reading a whole short story from Frog and Toad with one student. I understand that. Keep in mind that there's a couple things going on here. First of all, when I'm trying to share with you how to optimize your word level feedback, it's a lot easier to understand the foundational principles if it's just one student to focus on at a time. If we're jumping back and forth to multiple students, it would there would be a lot of other distractions. So when I just have the one student, you can really narrow in on excellence for giving feedback for the one, and when you become a master of these strategies, then it's a lot easier to handle it with the 5 in a small group. So I don't expect that most classroom teachers have the freedom or the privilege of working one-on-one many times, and yet when you do have this opportunity either to do it yourself or to learn from others who are doing it, then you will become more automatic. Does that make sense, you guys? Okay, and the other thing is this young boy is not struggling particularly. He's definitely learning, but he's not struggling. Again, don't try to say, well, these strategies, this type of feedback won't work for my students because they're struggling more. That's actually not been my experience. These 4 types work with kids of all across the spectrum. He's just going to figure stuff out faster, and maybe I don't have to use 2 or 3 types of support, but the techniques are the same, whether a child is 4 and has to have help with every single sound they put together to blend a CBC word, or they're 15 and you're helping them with words like irascible. Okay, so keep that in mind. The feedback is pretty constant for anyone who needs a tip on how to read an unknown word. All right, let's dive in. And when he makes a mistake, we're going to try to figure out which type of error it is. Okay, so that'll be a little fun. Play along with us. Toad sat in bed. Your turn.
I have my...
Close. I have
many things to do.
Okay, so he said my, but the word was many. So what kind of error was that? Number 1, number 2. It's a couple different things. It could be a couple different answers depending on the way you're thinking about it. Who's got a number for me? He said my, but it was the word many. Give you a little time to think. And if you're just popping in, these are our 4 classic types of word level errors, and we're going to go over them and see them in action with our first grader reading Frog and Toad. So what do you think? We've got 2 1s. I agree with you guys. He sort of guessed, sort of misidentified. He looked at the beginning, maybe even at the end, because the M and the Y would have led to my, but okay. So, and Alita, great. Let's see. And I helped him focus in with his eyes and put the sounds together, and he was off to the races. Okay, let's see what his next error is going to be. Thank you, Laura. Glad you're here. Let's see his next error. Morning. Toad sat in bed. Your turn.
I have my...
Close. I have
many things to do. He said, I will write them.
All right, he came to write, and he was kind of, what do I do? Do you know which error type that was? I'm not going to go back and show you the sheet because I think it messes up the video, but if you remember, we had guessing, we had guessing, we had a blending problem, we had unknown phonics information, or applying the Flex-It strategy, helping to apply that. What did you notice when he had trouble with write? What did I do? I definitely tapped his attention to the thing that was missing, and I underlined it because he didn't know what WR was, right? Would you guys agree that he didn't have the phonics information? Yeah, okay. So, and you thought it was a blending. Maybe you can't tell because he did need my help blending it. I see that too. Okay, we'll keep going. Watch some more errors.
So
I will write them
all down
I will write them
on a list so that I can remember them. Toad wrote on a piece of paper.
Okay, what do you think about the feedback there that the teacher's giving? Just pointing and not really saying a lot. Is that good? I have a preference for that. What do you think? Is that similar to how you teach? A lot of times when we have a small group, we feel like we might not have enough time to let each kid struggle through every word. And sure enough, you probably don't. But maybe once or twice for each student, each day, maybe 3 or 4 times, you want them to do that work, right? You want them to do the hard work of thinking through and being quiet on our side. So when I watch teachers, I think that's the hardest thing for us. When students are making word level errors, we want to say as little as possible. So that's why I really like the pencil as my primary first level of, it's like triage. Before I get into, you know, the really intense medical procedures, it's first just triage the situation with tapping or underlining. So again, I think this was like write, the word write and wrote. I think both of them were challenging for him because of error number 3, that he did not know the phonics information. He did not know that WR is R. But watch how quickly after this he picks it up.
A list for
A list
of things.
And that was just a guessing error, I believe, because he just saw of and he thought for, easy switch, and you know those high frequency words that happen so easily. Again, that's why tapping just kind of zoom his focus back. He fixed it really quickly.
Do today. Then he
Thanks, Laura. Yep.
wrote.
He got wrote the third time.
You have to do that for your, to remember to wake up?
No. I have done that, said Toad. And he crossed out wake up.
Sense of accomplishment already.
Then Toad wrote other things on the paper.
A list of things to do today.
Wake up, eat breakfast, get
Put those sounds together.
tur
D,
der
hold it.
dre
Uh-huh.
drins
This is an E.
dren
Dress.
dress up.
Good, very close. Get
Dress.
that dress. Good.
Okay, there was a couple different errors that popped up there. What do you think was the first thing that was the biggest issue for him? Was it that he just made a guess? Visuals, okay, right. Laura's back with the for wrote and write. Totally agree. He's now figuring out his third and fourth time. It's now stuck in his brain, which is really great. Of course, some of our kids won't pick it up after 2 or 3 exposures, but they will pick it up in 7 or 17 if we keep drawing that to their attention in the context of real reading. Gabriella, of course. And then, what was he having blending difficulty? Was he having unknown phonics information issues? Was he having? Did he have trouble applying the flexita strategy, the flipping the sounds to hear the right word? I agree with you, Melody. He didn't know some phonics information, and also he had blending difficulty. So when I covered up everything but the DR, that was helping him to focus. And DR, any beginning 2 consonant blends, those are hard, so it's going to be really hard for him to put them together. And then there's so many other letters behind that, he just couldn't quickly read it, like something as easy as, stop. So, love dressed up, yeah. That was cute. Here he goes, he's picking up speed now.
Go to Frog's house. Get tech. Ticket.
Try A.
Okay, so what was the problem with take? He said tech. Was he guessing? No, I don't think he was guessing. He was looking at it. He was taking his time. Was it a blending problem? Was it an unknown phonics information? Or did he need to flip the sounds around? Well, he did eventually need to flip the sounds around because he was guessing the wrong sound, right? He didn't notice probably that the A-E is the A sound. And I'm feeling kind of weird because this is me teaching. I need to get footage of someone else so I can say, look at what the teacher's doing. Basically, right now, I have to tell you my judgment is that it's a good decision that I made to first just tap, let him figure it out, and then after a few seconds, then to tell him, well, try A. Okay? Right, Cheryl. It's the phonics information, and Laura's right, too. You're both right, because he had to flex it. He started with tech. He had to drop the F and put in the A, so it required both. In fact, many of his errors, like most readers, will make multiple errors, and so we have to be ready with this type of feedback to get them through it. Yeah, I think you're right, Cheryl.
Hey.
And Penny, too.
Nice.
Oh, no, I think Melody, he's doing quite well with his long vowels. It's kind of typical for even if you know the A sound and have been doing it well, that it will sometimes slip out of your memory. Or you won't recognize it really quickly, because especially with the A silent E type pattern, or the separated E as I call it, because it's, the I has to skip forward a little bit. So that's pretty normal. Just like all development, there's things where we see them do really well and then maybe not as well, and it's kind of up and down for a little while. But most, if you look at things that he's figured out, he's doing really well with long vowels throughout this book. Yeah. So that's not unexpected, that some things they'll get and sometimes they won't, and that doesn't mean that you haven't taught it. They just need to put it into practice in real text.
Wow. Oh, that's weird. That's weird writing. That says take walk. Take walk with
frog.
Yeah, and I just gave that to him because the K is a weird font. And it took me a while to figure out what it said because I'm reading upside down.
Eat lunch, take nap, play games with frog, eat supper, go to sleep.
That was easy for you to read. Good job.
There, said Toad. Now my day is all worth it.
Now he forgot again. Again, that's normal.
Written.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that was the example of two things. He had the blending trouble because he had to figure out how to put the writ and then the N together. So that's why I took that two-syllable approach of breaking it up, showing him just writ initially and then showing him N. But of course, he also had the phonics information problem where he didn't remember that WR was R. So he had two things going on there, but he figured it out.
Now my day is all written down.
He got out of bed and had
Nice. He got out of bed and had
something to eat.
So that was a great example of the flex-it strategy. He started with head, but he knew it didn't make sense. He got out of bed and head. So I just tapped it so he could sit and think and drop the eh and plug in the ah.
Then Toad crossed out eat breakfast.
So I don't know if you can tell in his expressions, but he's kind of amused by this whole thing of Toad making notes on just the mundane things of his life. So that's why I'm not really asking him a lot of questions. I can tell by his inflection and his sense of humor that he's totally with the author on this. So I could keep going and show you some more things, but I think that we have taken a while, and I would like to give you this. The power of the pencil point tap. Nice summary, Laura. Thank you. This is a powerful instrument for a reading teacher. I would like to give you this, but it's not prepared for you in a digital format. I can't just deliver it right now because I didn't set it up. It's been one of those days, traffic, deadlines, other things. So if you're not on my email list, make sure you go to readingsimplified.com and sign up for freebies. We've got them everywhere so that next week when I email my list, you'll get this freebie. And if you want it immediately and you can't wait, message our Reading Simplified page and we'll get it to you soon. But remember, these are the 4 classic error types, and you'll see them with readers of all ages that sometimes they're going to guess. Sometimes they need blending help, sometimes they need phonics information help, and sometimes they need help applying the flex-it strategy. Drop a sound and plug in the other one. Thanks, Millicent. Do you guys have any questions before Did you catch the drift of this? Did something not seem believable? Maybe you're going to say, well, my kid wouldn't do it that way. How do you deal with this problem? I would love to know. These, again, are the four types of feedback and how you can help. I think Laura summed it up really well. So much can happen by just tapping. Tap the missing sound. tap what they're guessing and get their attention back to print. And then also the card is a very powerful instrument. A lot of times I use one. I'm going to get some scissors. I use one that is cut out with a little notch. You'll see that in the video, so that it just zeroes in right on the missing information. So that's a little tip that might work. I'm just waiting to see if there's any questions or comments or doubts. Or would you like me to be a little different? I'm open for that. Even though this is my Facebook Live, I'd love to hear dissent so we can talk about it. But you guys may have already gotten what you need. Would you like to see more footage of kids reading and how to give them feedback? Give me some hearts if that's something that would be intriguing to you. And if you think that this information could help a reading teacher or anyone who works with readers, you may want to tag them so that they get this information, or share it to your friends. All right, so I think it's time to call it a night. Thanks for being here. Again, it's Reading Simplified, readingsimplified.com, and we help anyone who teaches beginning or struggling readers streamline their reading instruction and accelerate their students' reading achievement. So please join us either through our Facebook page here, like us, get your notifications turned on so you don't miss us, or get on our blog at readingsimplified.com and snag any freebies so you don't miss out on announcements via email. I appreciate you being here, and again, I apologize about the delay, and see you next Tuesday when I pop in, most likely at 7 p.m. Eastern. Oh, Penny, thank you. Simple tools, but great results. That's another nice summary. You guys are the good summarizers today. Thank you. Pencil and paper corner, student voice present more than teacher voice. Yes, Laura, good takeaways. You guys are great students helping the teacher. Oh, okay, we got some love. All right. Laura says, thank you. Hoping more of the teachers that you work with will check out your videos. Awesome. Would love it. Thank you, Betty Jean. Hi, BJ. Oh, okay. That's smart that you needed to switch. Remy and Penny and Rosita, Cheryl and Melody, you're most welcome. And it seems like some of you do like to see these, so we'll pop in some more videos of kids and see what kinds of questions and suggestions you take from it. Thanks for being here tonight. Good night.